What would happen for your business if you suddenly got 2 million extra followers overnight? Would be great, right? Would it maybe solve all of your problems? Would you make loads and loads of money from here on out? Well, let's not jump to conclusions too quickly. Maybe you saw this story where an Instagram influencer with 2 million followers launched a new t-shirt line and failed to sell even 36 of them. And some experts in the field commented on this, saying that this isn't a freak occurrence. This is actually not that rare. The reason I'm showing you this is because I want to show that really vanity metrics are an illusion. And by vanity metrics, I mean all the kinds of numbers that are kind of boosting your ego, but not really doing anything for your business, right? Things like number of followers, shares, likes, upvotes, even traffic. These are all vanity metrics. And the problem is that in pursuing these metrics, in chasing after increasing those numbers, we can fall to the illusion that we're doing something that's good for our business, but it's not actually directly connected to a business result. So it can feel like we're doing the right thing. It can feel like, and it definitely feels good when these numbers go up. It feels good to have more followers, more likes, and so on. And we unconsciously, what we're actually doing is we're seeking that validation. We're seeking that dopamine hit of it feels good to see the graph go up. It feels good to get lots of likes on a post. And we forget that that is not the same as actually growing our business. Chasing vanity metrics, trying to increase the wrong numbers is a trap that loads of entrepreneurs are stuck in. And social media has made that worse. So the question is, how do you get out of this trap? What is the alternative? And the good news is, yes, there is an alternative. So let's start talking about that. There are two parts here that I want to present. And the first part is start recognizing this spectrum, because there's a spectrum where you have to find a balancing act. On the one side of the spectrum is what I call the ivory tower problem. And on the other side of the spectrum is what I call the algorithm puppet problem. Chasing vanity metrics and staying stuck in a treadmill of creating social posts, trying to get more likes and so on and so forth. That is the algorithm puppet problem. You can get into a situation where everything you post, everything you create, you're always seeking to increase those numbers. You're always chasing after greater vanity metrics numbers, which means that your actual authentic message, your mission, your cause kind of goes lost, because your only concern is, how do I drive these numbers up? How do I get more people to like me? How do I get more validation? But this is one end of a spectrum. The answer is not simply to go all the way towards the opposite, to just say, okay, I'm not going to care at all. I'm simply going to authentically express myself and do whatever I think is right. See, that is the other end of the spectrum. And that is another point where a lot of entrepreneurs fail. This is what I call the ivory tower problem, where you're basically sitting in your ivory tower. You're thinking about, here's the product that I'm going to make, right? I'm going to work on this product for a long time. And the product is simply what I think people want. It's what I think is important. And then what happens? You launch the product and you find that, oh, nobody else cares. This isn't actually a problem people are willing to pay for, to get a solution to, or something like that. So both of these extremes are basically going to lead to failure. And what we need to do is we need to perform that balancing act where we can express our own values, we can express our own interests and do what's important to us in an authentic way, but also intersect that with something that there's actual demand for in the market, in the general public, in wherever we are trying to release our content or our product. This is related to what we talked about in the last video. The idea that we have to be aware of where there is market demand and have to make sure that we actually place ourselves in a stream of interest that people already have. So that is the balancing act that you have to perform. And it can be quite difficult because there's always incentives tugging you one way or the other. And in fact, Ollie, you have a story about this, don't you?
As a matter of fact, unfortunately, yes, I do.
Yeah, why don't you tell them about it?
Okay. So thank you, Shane, for putting me on the spot. What Shane was referring to was this. So I make self-development based content on YouTube, and I have done for the past few years. And it was only about in the past year that I've actually learned about this concept of your sort of ideal target market, who you actually want to be talking to, which got me asking the question, who is it I am speaking to when my message is the most impactful? And the answer is men. When I'm talking to men, I feel like my message is received the most impactfully and I get the most meaningful responses, like paragraph comments and plenty of them. Deep down, I know that speaking to men specifically is the right way to go, but it feels controversial. I have some things running around in my mind, like if I start speaking to men specifically, I'll be alienating women. Or if I start speaking about men's issues, the sort of nitty-gritty and controversial stuff, I'll be winding people up or turning people off from my content. For years, I've been making content for everyone. And I've noticed that when I speak more specifically about men's issues, the vanity metrics go down. I get less likes, but I get more comments and responses. So what Shane was referring to was this sort of inner battle I'm currently facing, where it's like, do I make content specifically for men with a more impactful message? And do I let go of the vanity metrics? And that is this battle that's playing itself out within me at the moment.
So that's part one. That's the spectrum or the balancing act. Part two is one concept that I learned about many years ago that has been massively important to me. And that is the concept of 1,000 true fans. The concept of 1,000 true fans comes from Kevin Kelly, who is an author, futurist, and quite frankly, a genius. And he wrote about this in the early days of the internet. And the concept is this: for a creator, an artist, or any kind of smaller scale entrepreneur or solopreneur, all you need is 1,000 true fans to have a successful business. And true fans are defined as basically anyone who's really excited about what you're doing and will generally buy anything that you create. And when you think about it, that definitely checks out. So if you have 1,000 true fans who are super excited about what you do, and you release a product, let's say for $50, and everyone buys it, well, that's $50,000 in revenue. And for a single person, for a single creator or entrepreneur, that is already a livable income. You can think of it like this. While most people who are trying to build something on the internet are chasing the big numbers and they're thinking, I need 10,000 followers here, I need 100,000 subscribers, I need millions of visitors to my website in order to be successful. This is a completely different paradigm. This is a completely different way to think about what you're doing. And instead of trying to shout out your message with a megaphone to as many people as possible, you can think about, how do I gather that small tribe and have a much more direct relationship with those people? This is what has been my focus in my business building for a really long time. And let me emphasize this. The idea of 1,000 true fans is it's not the idea of like, how do I extract more money out of fewer people? This is a completely different concept of how most businesses are run. The value of 1,000 true fans goes way beyond that. One of the values in having 1,000 true fans is that you have a real engagement with those people. So these people are people who know you and your brand, who recognize you and who seek you out actively, right? They're not just passively following you and maybe every once in a while they like your Instagram post or something like that. They are active, passionate followers of what you do. And you have a real engagement because you also know them. Like, you will recognize your super fans because you're constantly having conversations with them through comments and emails and things like that. And this engagement brings loads and loads of value. See, almost everything I've done in terms of business has arisen out of that interaction with my small audience. It's like I will have conversations with them and I'm constantly engaged with and informed about what they want, what they need, and what products I might create, and also what content I can create in order to serve those fans. And it's somewhat ironic to me that so many people get into online business or online marketing. They follow this dream of online entrepreneurship because they imagine that, oh, how cool would it be if I can, have an online business where I can launch a product, I can sell a digital product maybe, and like 1,000 people or more will buy that thing. It'll create income for me without me having to kind of, stand behind a counter and serve customers as I would in a local business, where I can kind of decouple my own work and my own input from the results I get, right? We have this kind of dream of being able to send an email and it leads to loads and loads of sales while you're asleep. But the pursuit of vanity metrics is actually moving people away from that goal. As the Instagram influencer story from before shows, you can have loads and loads of shallow, superficial followers, and that doesn't translate into a business result. But you can have a really small tribe of fans, and that can be enough to generate a full-time income. To give you a very specific example from my own entrepreneurial journey, I was making a full-time income from my product sales online before I had 1,000 email subscribers. And okay, that sounds nice. Who wouldn't want these kinds of results? But there's another thing about this approach that I think is really fundamental and that makes running a business like this so much more satisfying. If you ask yourself, well, what really matters? On this question, the vanity metrics mislead you even worse. And let me show you 2 examples of content that I've created to illustrate this point. This first one is a video that I made a few years ago. And as you can see here, less than 1,000 people in total ever saw this video. And it only got 37 thumbs up as well. So in terms of vanity metrics, this video is a failure. This is not a successful, you wouldn't feel good about, oh yeah, here's a video that, 700-ish people saw. That's clearly not a success story, right? And now look at this comment that is underneath this video. This is a response that one of my viewers in my small insider group of fans had to the message I put out. And this message was a very personal, direct message talking to those people, talking to my small group of fans. It wasn't made for mass consumption. I wasn't trying to reach 1 million views with this thing. I was having conversations, I was seeing what was happening in my small tribe, and I made this message because I thought this is an important message for these people. On the other hand, from the same channel, here's a much more recent video that got far more views. As you can see, in just a few months, this is already approaching 50,000 views. It has far more thumbs up and more of everything, okay? In terms of vanity metrics, this is overall a far more successful video. And look, there's nothing wrong with this video, but what's this about? I'm talking about Zoom and live webinars or online webinars. And I'm basically telling people, should they use Zoom or something else in order to do webinars? Now, the reason this got a lot of views is because there's a lot of demand at this time for this kind of information. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with answering this kind of question, which in this case is interesting to a far greater audience, a far wider audience of people. However, I can guarantee you that this video didn't change anyone's life. This video is, at best, it's useful and it's informative, but because it's more generic, because it's something that has a wider appeal, it's just not going to have a deep impact. And that's why I posed the question before of what really matters. Because I didn't start a business to get views on YouTube. I didn't start a business to get traffic or to get likes. I did start a business to make money, but not only to make money, right? I started a business because there are things I care about, because there are things where I feel like I can bring some value into the world. And that matters at least as much as whether or not I can make money. The 1,000 True Fans approach is one where your vanity metrics don't look as juicy as if you're trying to make mass appeal stuff, but you get more messages like the ones I showed you. You get more comments of people saying, hey, this is amazing. This made a real difference to me. This really speaks to me. And this is the main thing I want you to take away from this. If you can shift your focus away from chasing vanity metrics and look for how can I create this kind of response? How can I put things out there that really resonate deeply with a small group of people and make a real difference and real impact? And try to maximize this kind of response instead of just maximizing the shallow vanity metrics. And what you'll find as a result is that this also increases results on your bottom line. Now, this was all a little theoretical, and I want to make this as practical for you as possible. So we've created a PDF worksheet that you can go through that will help you find the intersection between 3 aspects. The first aspect is the thing that you're interested in and the thing that you can authentically provide. The second aspect is the demand of what people want, right? What do people want and look for in a market? And the third aspect is what do people actually need? Because what people want and what they need are often not exactly the same thing. And what you can do is you can find that intersection of all 3 aspects, and that in the middle is the kind of content that if you create it will attract an audience of true fans. So check out the link below where you can download that PDF, where you can work through this exercise to find where does that sweet spot lie for your business. And also, because there is a lot of demand in my audience of fans for learning this kind of system, for learning this system of what I call audience building, I have created a course that teaches a very extensive system for how I've done this in my businesses and how you can apply it to your own. And you can sign up below to be notified for when we launch that course.